that it doesn't.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is your girl JB, and this is What's Really Good on Skies Crescent Radio. We are in our third episode of this new year. In January, we spoke about politics. In February, we spoke about education with my lovely friends from Philadelphia. And this week, we are speaking on wellness with three lovely individuals. The great thing about doing radio, doing podcasts, whatever, is that you get to invite people that you've met from other places in your life to converse with on a different stage. Oftentimes I'm in front of a microphone singing, and that's where I met all of these people, whether as their instructor or as peers on the scene. So I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, starting on my left and then going around, and then we'll get into conversation.
I'm Jason Marshall. I play the saxophone. And that is it for right now.
For the moment.
To the point.
My name is Brent Burkhead. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I play the saxophone as well and various other woodwind instruments, and I've been making my living doing this, what I love. So that's
lovely.
Simply.
A Howard man.
Howard.
Got it.
H-U. Somebody saying, on the other side somewhere.
And my name is Crystal. I'm New York born and bred, and I am a social worker. I'm a therapist for the people, private practice in schools, all of that.
I love that. So I texted Crystal, like, hey, what would you call yourself? Like, what's your job title, whatever. And she was like, I'm a social worker by day and a therapist for the people by night. I was like, oh, that's flash. She's like, I just made that up. I was like, that's it.
So we're going to go with that.
We're going to go with that.
Yes.
Therapist for the people. You might recognize Jason from our December episode, sounding incredibly similar because when he comes on my show, he likes to have no voice. Which is, it is.
Thank you.
You are welcome, but that's why you have some water next to you. So, all right. So as they have introduced themselves, I've wanted to talk about this for a while. In the past couple years, this idea of wellness, of health, of self-care, all of these things have become buzzwords and things of that nature. And when I moved back to New York, I got in with a whole lot of people that were doing things that I had always done, mainly partying, drinking, smoking, like all the shit that was probably ruining, and not probably, it was ruining my body, right?
Got it.
But also I was around people that were dumb negative, just believed that go hard, no sleep, all of these things that you see on Instagram, I never sleep is a cousin of death, all these things.
I hate that.
Me too. And so, but that's what I was around. Then, the world shifted and I made different choices, and those different choices led me to all of you. The cool thing is that I met Crystal through Momentum Education Connection. And then I saw Brent in Smalls one night and I was like, yo, he played for Lauren. So we're both Lauren alums. Right. So I went up to him. I was
stories.
like, so many stories.
I believe
so many stories. And then I met Jason through a friend in a club as well, and that's how it happens. And it was funny because I think somebody immediately in front of him was like, yo, you want a drink? Or he was like, nah, I don't drink. And he had like a ginger ale or something. I was like, oh, okay, I see this. I like these people that I'm now getting to surround myself with, which is why I wanted to invite you guys on the show. So with that said, I want to hear, and maybe you can start, Crystal, what this kind of word, wellness, since you are the social worker and the therapist for the people, taking it a little different from these two gentlemen over here. What does wellness, that term, mean to you as a person, specifically for you right now?
Wellness means off the top, like just holistic, right? So people think wellness, they think either, well, actually always just physical, right? So whether that is going to the gym or eating healthy, going to the doctor, that's the only way that people think about wellness when, it's everything, right? Mm-hmm. Mental health included, which should be just up there with going to your doctor, going to your dentist.
Absolutely. Brent, what about you?
Most recently, I'm thinking holistically because I'm realizing that mental health is just as important as physical health, and one feeds into the other. You know, when one fails in one side, the other will also fall. So, you know, recently it's just been, you know, am I putting the right things in, and am I taking in the right things with my eyes and ears? You feel what I'm saying? So that's what it means to me right now.
Absolutely. Jason?
Wellness is just the process of becoming the most successful human you can be. So for me, it's just a constantly evolving process of just learning how to live and how to be as useful to your environment as you can be. And more specifically, how not to be such a costly additive to the environment.
That is really
So that's where I'm at right now.
How does that, especially for y'all two, how does that affect your daily as musicians? How have you had to navigate differently than maybe somebody that's working a 9 to 5? It's just different lifestyles. So talk.
It's a very different lifestyle. And, of course, Jason hit me to this years ago, and my eyes couldn't necessarily see it. You know what I mean? But it's every night is Saturday night.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And then if you go on the road, it's a Saturday night at a 20,000 person arena. So it's really Saturday night then. You know what I mean? Anything is accessible on any day of the week. What are you going to do to, you know, say like, okay, it's Wednesday for real.
For real.
Right.
For real.
Yeah.
Like what is gonna keep you from doing that? And it's really what are the things I'm gonna do to be the most successful? What things work for me? Like Jason said, you know, what things will facilitate my growth? And if that means I need to after the concert I need to go straight to bed. You know what I mean? Then that's what I need to do. If I need to stop eating at 8 o'clock, it's because I know after the concerts they're gonna have wings and pizza.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That means I need to stop eating at 8 o'clock. You know, if I need to, if I need to stay away from certain areas, you know what I mean? I need to stay away. It's just it is what it is.
It is what it is.
You know what I mean? So those things. Those temptations are amplified as a musician.
Yeah.
So wellness has to be taken to another level because you're always at that heightened state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of stimulation. You know, most people don't get the stimulation that, you know, you get when you're a musician every day.
Absolutely.
You know? So
I found not even just being on the road, but working consistently, especially as a singer, there are things that you have to do that people don't take account for, and you also don't learn.
Right.
Like we are not taught as vocalists that it's your entire body. It could be your toe that's messed up, but it is your entire body that is affected and affects you when you're singing, when you're performing, when you're practicing, and like that's practice that you need to do. But that also affects normal people that are not musicians, that they don't. Sometimes we don't understand because we've never been taught, firstly, kind of how to love our bodies as just these vessels that are taking us through the world. And then we don't think that it matters as much because either we're young, we do some kind of thing, we work out, we do whatever. But like you said earlier, the choices of the things that you consume, not only through drink and through food, but through listening and through the people that you associate yourself with. Like energy is super real.
no doubt.
And when you surround yourself with people that will bring you down, you will want things that you wouldn't necessarily want if you were surrounded by other people that were actually on a higher level
No doubt.
of vibe. And it took a long time, but I'm happy that I'm getting better at that. You know what I mean? Jason, what about you as a musician? Let me ask you something. What was the change in you? Was there a change? Have you always been like this?
I've always been headed here. I didn't come out like this. So I was fortunate in that I had a lot of good teachers. I had great parents. I had just really wise musicians around me the whole time. And, I remember, I had the first musical teacher I had other than my mother was my piano teacher, and she was a practicing Buddhist. And while I don't practice Buddhism, I remember how strongly she felt about her space and her energy and all that kind of stuff. I remember having Nasser Abede, Kush's father. I remember him holding an orange, and it was during Ramadan. And he was saying, I've been a vegetarian 30 years, and he was shaking his orange at me. And we were in a club where I'm sure he was the only vegetarian at the time. But I just had a lot of examples of alternatives to the way everybody was living. And so when I got to New York, if I'm honest, the social aspect did not have the same draw that it does on some people. And because I had still have a dad who was constantly telling me who I was and what I was here to do and all of that, I didn't need to hear that from other people. So I was happy to play my horn and leave.
Sure.
Because I didn't need the other things that other people could understandably stick around for. So being a musician, I recognized that my interest in music was just music.
Yeah.
Right.
I just didn't want for the other things. And when it came time to make those decisions, like, do I stick around and hang and be part of the entourage, take in the whatever it is to take in, I was fortunate that I had band leaders who showed me all the wrong ways to do it. Most of them are not alive anymore, but they showed me all the wrong ways, like, as soon as they could. Like, this is exactly how not to do it. And they did that over and over and over again. So, and it's just interesting as I reflect on the folks I work with in these, I've been in New York getting ready to be 16 years. More often than not, I had someone showing me the wrong way to do it. And sometimes we didn't get along for that reason. Because I knew better. And I was headstrong when I was 19 and 20 years old. You couldn't tell me anything at all.
Typical.
Still
I can't see
can't.
that.
So being a musician and trying to be well, I just recognized that it wasn't about being healthy as a young person. I was a young person, and I'm not old now, but I'm not 18 anymore, for sure. And I recognize now that people confuse youth and wellness.
Yes.
And they're not the same. Right. And some people just ride the youth thing until it's all gone, and that's it. And then they say, well, what happened? Well, they didn't learn how to be a successful human apart from their youth.
Yeah.
Youth is when you have like a layer of foam rubber around your skull so you can learn how to live. But when that's over, you're supposed to have gathered the tools to be successful after that. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking on alternative lifestyles, Crystal, what do you, as a social worker and independent contractor and things like that, what exposure do you work with children? Do you work with families? Who do you work with first of all?
I work with children, my regular, well, not 9 to 5, but like 8 to 3, because I work in the schools. And then twice a week I work with pretty much people that's our age, like the mid-20s who are trying to figure out this whole transition, like, oh crap, I'm an adult now. Those who are 30 who are putting these I call it shoulding yourself. I heard it from my therapist back in the day. When we're like, oh, I'm 30, I should have a house, I should have a relationship, I should have this, I should have that, right? These expectations that were given to us from like our families and things like that. So that's typically what I work with. Yes, I've had outliers every now and then, but typically it's adolescence, and adolescence stretches from like puberty to 30s.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
true.
people really don't understand that part. Like adolescents, like we're still adolescents for the most part.
Well, we aren't, but
Oh, sorry.
well, at least I'm
I
not. You are. That's fine. I won't call anybody's age out over here, but I am definitely not an adolescent. Thank you, though.
But be it in spirit.
Oh,
it's
absolutely in
fine.
spirit. Absolutely in spirit. The good thing is I've learned a whole lot to not be as stupid in my adolescence as I am now, so that's good.
But going off of Jason, got you. So going off of what you were saying, like a lot of times you don't have to always learn from experience. You can learn from experience from other people. I can like look at you and like, I'm not doing that.
Absolutely.
And that should be enough.
Yeah.
Right? Some of us are hard headed. I get it. Like I was too. Still am sometimes. But we should be able to look at certain people's patterns and be like, that's not going to work for me.
That takes, though, a level of self-awareness that many people don't have or haven't been able to see other people have. That, you know, even people can make mistakes, but there's so many other things that work against you in that fact. And my question to you was, do you find access to alternative lifestyles other than this thing that, you know, society gives us? Do you find those available and that information available to people that you work with, especially kids, like especially adolescents? Like I think it's important for people to be aware of things that it's you don't have to drink the Mountain Dew Bahama Breeze, whatever it's called, from Taco Bell every day. Like you don't even have to have a coffee in your hand every day if you're a New Yorker. You know, like you don't
My
need
kids
coffee.
Eat Takis every morning.
Yeah.
What?
Takis?
What is that?
They're like hot Cheetos. That was all the thing.
Oh yeah,
Like literally every morning, I see them coming to school with Takis in their mouth.
deviled eggs and
And I
like
was like,
they got
why?
Yeah.
pickled eggs. I mean,
But even
that's
with
what they eat. That's what they eat.
Oh God! But even with that though, like, so if this was September, probably around like November, because my kids are very transparent with me. Because why not with the social worker?
Yeah.
But they would tell me, "Oh, Miss Miller, I used the bathroom, and this is how this
It
looks."
went- yeah, right.
And I'm like, "Well, when you eat Takis every day, my dear, that's
That's what
right,
happens.
right,
What
right,
happens.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So as far as access to these type of like alternative things, it's not there, right? So if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it.
Right.
Thankfully, like people like me are in schools, but if the school does not deem mental health as important, it's not going to happen. Thankfully, we currently have an administration that favors mental health.
In your specific school or like in the DOE?
In New York City in general, we have with what's her name?
Shalane McRae.
Yep,
Right.
she has a very strong push for mental health in all ways, right? So whether it's us doing mindfulness in schools or her biggest campaign right now is Thrive NYC, where she's able to go ahead and give these mental health access to mental health discussions for free, usually, right? I was actually just in a talk with her on Wednesday where actually was describing like the premise behind Thrive NYC. She also recognized that our community, people of color, that even though Thrive was there, we don't think it's for us. So
Absolutely.
with that came the invention of Brothers Thrive and Sisters Thrive, which was backed by Greek letter organizations and other sister and brother organizations of color, so that we are also able to go ahead and host these things called listening sessions. Where it's pretty much just like a community circle.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what's going on right now? How could we help? How could we help this access? So, I mean, we have all of those different things. And there's also, I'm seeing it pop up more and more, whether it's through social media platforms, like I have my own as well, Melanated Masks, where I'm focusing on like people of color, people of African descent, to be able to showcase like, this is a time when I wasn't okay. And with me starting that about a little over a year ago, I've opened myself up to like so many other people who are on the same strength, right? Whether it's through mental health, through meditation, through yoga, like we are coming back to our roots. And I think it is the younger generations who are like, we cannot stay silent anymore, right? We're coming from generations who, even with my mother, so I hosted an African Women's Circle a couple weeks ago, and my mother, right before her, bless her heart, I'm first generation Caribbean, Jamaican. So I was telling her about it, and she's like, I just don't understand how you guys just talk about everything. And I'm like,
That's old school, though.
Yeah, it
Keep-
is.
keeping
It
things
is.
in is-
And
that's
like-
old school.
exactly. And when you speak to her, it's kind of like, well, her and any other older person, it's kind of like this mental health thing is that's just not what we do. Just go pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't work for us no more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get mad when we have people in our family or communities where like, oh, you're just a little touched. Or just don't hang around with them. But we're not like, we acknowledge it happens, but we're not addressing the situation that got us there.
Absolutely. That takes a whole lot of work that many of us are not
Yeah.
prepared. Firstly, like emotionally prepared for, but also like we don't have the tools to do it,
Right.
and we don't want the tools to do it because then that's just gonna open up our closet of things.
And that's okay. Sometimes you gotta clean the closet
Yo,
out.
when
It
is
is
so
okay.
okay, it is so okay, and it
Yeah.
but it's not something that again is mainstream enough, especially for people that have been so set in their ways. You know, for at a certain point, I truly believe at a certain point most things won't change, right? But it's a good thing that we do have folks like you, folks that are younger, that are really putting things out and saying it is okay to talk. It is okay to go to a therapist. It is great. I've never been to therapy, but my friend was like, I'm going to give you the name of my therapist. She's a Black woman. Like, go. And I'm like, that's great because it's time. It's time. But you also have to understand that you have to be ready. So you said something earlier to Jason about, you know, you couldn't quite see it yet. He told you something, but you weren't ready to accept it yet. And
Yeah.
you said that in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
That's really real as well. We have to recognize that so many people are on different journeys and on different steps of that
Right,
journey.
exactly.
And it does take a good amount of self-awareness to be like, all right, I'm not on your step of the journey, so I'm not going to try to be you, but I'm going to do what I can where I'm at to make myself as effective as possible.
Right.
It's creating your own path at the end of the day, right? Like I'm actually reading a new book right now, some Sacred Women, and I'm like going through it, and I'm like, that is really cool. I don't know if I'm there yet, but like, what else could we do?
Yeah.
To like the baby steps of this self-actualization.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I think it's a good time to play Brent's song. So before we listen, Brent, as he said, is a saxophonist and also multi-instrumentalist of the wind variety. And
put it.
yeah, you know, it's a way. And this is a track off of his debut. This is his debut.
D-Butt.
D-Butt, the D-Butt album, y'all.
D-Butt.
I actually listened to it for the first time while I was on the elliptical, and it got me through. Like
Hey.
it was great. I was
There
like,
it
look
is.
at that jazz, Black American music getting me through the elliptical. I didn't have to listen to no trap. It was great. This is called Flux off of Brent Burkhead's debut album, Burkhead. Clap it up for Flux. How many times have you listened to your record since it's been released?
Way less since it's been released.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for
I know.
that. I'm so thankful for that.
Completely understand.
You know what I mean? I recorded it almost 3 years ago, and then I went on the road for 3.5 years and didn't have like a 4-month period where I could just dedicate putting everything into this and making sure that I could facilitate 12 months after.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Which will feed into the next one.
Absolutely.
So I'm just grateful.
You did it the right way. I did mine the wrong way. I did mine while I was on tour, and that was just a bad idea.
It's
so
tough. It's tough. You know what I mean?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's fantastic.
Where
can people find it?
They can find it on all digital platforms. I also sell it at my shows. I have physical copies as well. You can get physical copies from CD Baby. But you can find it anywhere. Just put the name in Google, and it should come up for you.
Awesome. And we'll talk a little later about shows and things coming up from folks. Okay, so we're talking about wellness and all its holistic varieties. I want to know from you guys specific things that you do to make yourself well. It doesn't have to be your whole routine. But there are things, there are specific things that I'd love for you to share that you do, so that other people can hear the things that they might, take away and do that. Who'd like to start? I'm looking at you. I was just looking at you.
I know. I'm trying to think like exactly what to point out. I guess the one thing that I have started to do a lot more now than when I was younger was learning how to really create boundaries and sticking to them. That is my
You can
biggest
expound
thing.
upon that if you'd like.
Not a problem. So I was always a people pleaser, very quiet. Like although if I need to be out there, I could be out there, but by nature, I'm very like, oh, okay, I need my space. And I started working on that a lot in my earlier 20s, but now it's more so going back to like reading energy. Is like if I start feeling myself get super anxious out of nowhere, it's like, what is happening? Who's around me? Actually happened recently during a vacation I had in the summer. It was a girls' trip down to Essence Fest. Me and the girls fine now, but at the time, at the time, it's like, oh, why do I feel like this? Right? I'm like overthinking a lot more than usual. It's just I was all over the place, and I had to sit and think like, all right, cool. I need this boundary for right now.
Yeah,
I need to not be in the group. I need to just be by myself and just sit for a little bit. And I'm getting in the habit of doing that a lot more now. Like whether it's me being at work, the bad thing, I think we're all in the same boat with this. Like we have to people a lot. That's just a part of our jobs. Right? I have to talk because that's what therapists do. Yeah. So in the times when I don't need to talk,
I'm not talking.
I'm not doing it. You're not going to force me to people nowhere. Right. I'm going to just, when I leave here today and I go home, I'm closing my door. I'm burning some sage. I'm going to I'm going to get my energy right, and then I can speak to you. Maybe.
That's real though.
Yeah.
People don't get that.
They don't. They think that anyone who does this is being like standoffish, you're being rude. Like, no, I need to take care of me first. Why am I pouring from empty cups? Like, let me refill for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gentlemen?
One way is that I do try to do something every day that's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I started taking cold showers a couple of months ago. And now I'm at the point where I'm taking ice cold showers every single morning, knowing that I'm going to walk into an ice cold shower. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a certain thing that you're conquering a fear straight in the morning. Then you just walk in. I'm going to deal with it. You know what I mean? And then go about my day. And there are a lot of health benefits from that as well. The energy that you get, the repair of your body and your muscles. And I felt that when I do that, I'm even more productive in the morning. And that's another thing, making sure that my mornings count. So I'm getting up and I'm not reading emails. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm making sure that I'm having real connections with people. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's a shift as well. And I've been able to just be more effective across the whole day and make better decisions.
Yeah.
You don't realize how often that our decisions are based off of the environment that we're in. You know what I mean? Or the people that are around us. I was like, no, just, make the rational decision that you would make by yourself in your own mind, and then do that.
Yep.
It seems so much simpler than it is. But, it's like, no, make the decision that you would make if you were by yourself. It was only you. What decision would that be?
Yeah.
Do that.
Yep. That's real.
My regimen includes being some kind of endurance athlete.
Okay.
Just because in order to do some defragging, like the Black American experience is one of endurance. So in order to streamline that process and evolve with those stressors in my body, I race bicycles, I run 10Ks, longer distances, and so forth. I don't eat before noon, and I don't eat after 8 o'clock. Generally, I mean, I'm pretty strict with that, but I understand sometimes things change. I grew up with a lot of respiratory illness, and so every year I would have these kind of like debilitating bouts of pneumonia and bronchitis and everything. Now I just lose my voice. But I realized that I had an allergy to refined starch and a few other things. So now I eat the same meal every day. I haven't watched TV in 20 years, but in that way I don't consider myself so reformed or anything. I'm at where I'm at. I've been here a long time. I do social media from 9 to 5. Like, it's available to me from 9 to 5. I don't do it for 8 hours, but if something happens and people need to reach me, I never did Twitter, but some people have suggested that I get on it for some political reasons.
You would be so good.
He would be a
in
good
Twitter.
character.
You would be so good at Twitter. It's more than 140 characters now.
Right.
Like,
oh, is it really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you can link tweets together. So
see, I don't know anything about that.
Oh man.
Yeah, you would be a beast.
All right. Well.
I can't.
Yeah, I mean, but I do that, and I try and be. I just try and be self-interested, because the people that need me to be at full capacity, like, I got to be at 100% for other people. So I do what I can to keep myself at or as close to 100%. And then the thing is, when I shut it down, I shut it all the way down. Like, because you don't, like, when you train, when you learn, you don't train, you don't improve while you training. You improve when you recover. If you recover. If you don't recover, you might as well not train. So whatever the thing is, if you're not sleeping, if you're not recovering from the thing, whatever that is, you don't actually benefit from any of the stress you put your body through. So that's what I do.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. You mentioned something, Jason, that we haven't acknowledged in depth yet. And it's that as Black people, wellness in the community is something that can be, I'm trying to find the word, is difficult. Is because of the world in which we live, there is a stress upon us that is different than other folks. And so that's another level of this that I think also interferes with the production of being your best. I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about food. I have a very strange relationship and not healthy relationship with food, right? I grew up on fried shrimp, collards with the turkey neck in it, all that stuff.
Now, ain't nothing wrong with it.
No. But like, fried chicken, all of that. Like, there was always vegetables on my plate, right? But that crunch, right? There's nothing like, at least when I was thinking about it that way, there was nothing like the crunch of something fried or those Takis or, you know, even the Trader Joe's Hot Cheetos brand, because those are hitting, but I haven't eaten them in like 3 months, so I'm trying to change everything.
So
yeah, it's still
that bad.
It is processed, colored things that I should not be putting in my body. But food is a comfort for many folks.
Yes.
Alcohol is a comfort for many folks.
Yep.
Weed, other drugs. What else? These are ways that we escape the world in which we have to go out into. Ways that we can survive. How do we? So there are 4 of us sitting at this table.
Yep.
What can we do as people to not just by living, but but also by living, like, because I think we at least I know all of you, like, you do that fairly well, but folks that don't know you, what is it that we can do and that we can also impart upon our communities as just the people that we are right now? How can we make that change in those communities? Like, what are some of the impetuses that we can, or some of the catalysts that we can set? What do you guys think?
Got you right here. And it's funny that she started off like that, because that's something that I've always, in conversation that came up with other clinicians, but it's very true. Like, in our community, if it's not food, drugs, or sex, that's the only way that we deal with our mental health.
Yeah.
Point blank, period.
Yep. Yeah. I forgot about sex. You're absolutely right.
Sex is a big thing.
Huge.
But what I brought up just now, so when I'm speaking to clients or even like my students and friends about self-care, normally when we speak about it only as like, whether it's fitness or the bubble baths with the really expensive candles, like those are the only ways we could have our mental wellness.
Yeah.
When actually there's something called the self-care wheel. And it breaks down self-care into 6 different parts.
Who wrote that?
It's by an institution, the Olga Phoenix Project, and it's something that we use in general, right? So we have physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. Those are the 6 dimensions that we need to think about when it comes to self-care. Normally we just keep it with like physical, maybe some spiritual, that's it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you were to ever look through, if you just Google self-care wheel, it's going to come up. But it really makes you look and think and be like, where am I slacking?
Yeah.
So for example, for professional, which a lot of us like fall short on, right? If we're going to work, how often are you taking breaks? When you take breaks, are you going outside?
Really?
Are you shutting down as you're supposed to? Or are you just like working through everything as a way to feed into this beast culture? If I'm not beasting, it's not going to work.
Yep.
Right? But in the reality being that if you're beasting and then you drop off,
what does
then
matter?
what?
Yeah,
exactly. You know, things like spiritual, where we focus a lot on the religious aspect of it, whereas also could just be the meditation, the you being able to self-reflect and work on the self-awareness, right? So by sitting and looking through all these things, that's what my offer would be to our community as far as like this whole mental wellness and like holistic wellness. Being able to be like, you know what, there's so many things that are involved in this, and if one is lacking, you're going to feel it.
And there are things that we can be in control of and things that we can't be in control of.
Correct.
So that is definitely one thing that we have control over to the biggest extent, I think.
Right.
Because these are choices that we can make. And if we see examples of them as well, and understand that it's out there and it's not stigmatized and it's not this thing where, oh, we can't do that. No, you can.
Right.
You absolutely can.
I mean, like, I can't be able to control, for lack of a better word, an asshole boss.
Yeah.
Right? But I can control the fact that I could walk away from this conversation and close my door.
Absolutely.
I could take 5 minutes for me to recoup so I'm not cursing you out.
Yep.
So that I still have a job to be able to feed my family.
Absolutely.
So those are like the little examples, right? Being able to, even though we're in New York City, there are still trees, there's still somewhat fresh air outside that we could go and indulge in, right? Being able to disconnect from our phone, which I know is hard for a lot of us, especially as part of like our business, but being able to disconnect from our phones for the 30 or so minutes so that we could like really connect with those who are around us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who else?
What I do in some of the work that I do around music and wellness and so forth is helping to put in perspective quite what has happened, because a lot of young folks have had circumstances kind of set before they got here, and they don't realize that something went very wrong.
Right.
So, like when you talk to an 8-year-old, it's like, man, you were supposed to have a whole lot of healthy adults around you to prevent you having ended up here.
Right.
And if you didn't, obviously that ain't your fault. You might think it is just because you need it and you don't have it and you're here. So here we are. But again, when dealing with folks, I find it helps to kind of just be honest about what has happened up until now. So when people say, well, all I like is, weed, alcohol, and sex. It's like, okay, well, those things, you don't even actually want those things. You just want to not feel what you would otherwise feel. And the thing about wellness is that once you start to kind of peel back the layers and you say, okay, well, here's where I'm at. How did I get here? Okay, and then all these circumstances happened before I got here to lead up to now. And, kids don't grow off of trees. They come from people.
Right.
And if the people are not there, then you say, okay, well, what happened to those people? So when you talk about, if it's incarceration, if it's drug addiction, if it's just poverty and all of that, what I would do is be frank with the young people to say, like, there's nothing wrong with you. There are things wrong about the circumstance you were born into, but that wasn't your fault. That's the nature of the world we live in. So, yeah, you have options to be a better version of yourself in 1,000 different ways. But a lot of people are, I see now a lot of people are just depressed about how unsuccessful they have become. Or the, shoulding yourself. Like, I'm 30, I should have this, I should have that. You'd be hard pressed to find a black American 30 years old who owns a house. Straight up.
Yep.
And not for anything they did wrong.
No.
Not because they didn't eat their vegetables, not because they didn't go to sleep on time, not because they drank too much alcohol, or whatever the thing is.
Right.
But for me, I always go around and say, okay, here's where we're at, here's what we got to fix, right? But understand that there's things missing that should have been there, and some of those might have prevented your being here at this point. So, yeah.
I don't know if I can say anything after that. That's very prolific. There's circumstances that are here that was set before you even got here. You know what I mean? So all you can do is work on yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? There has to be that self accountability. I try to teach that when I teach at Morgan, and I try to teach that within the lessons. It's not about playing the saxophone.
No.
It's about figuring out who you are. You know what I mean? And in figuring out the processes of the saxophone, mechanically up and down, you're realizing that you have to sit here and you have to train your nervous system to be able to play these notes. Right. And when you're doing that, you're finding out what you'll go through to get to a goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which teaches you that I can withstand this. I can go to that next place.
Yeah.
So I think teaching self-actualization is something that I try to do, and I'm doing. And I tell them straight up, I'm going through this process.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going through it.
Yeah.
This is. I'm only telling you this because I'm going through it right now.
Yeah.
So self-actualization.
Awesome. Lady and gentlemen, we're gonna close it off today. I am so grateful for this conversation. Like for real. You can find What's Really Good on Spotify, so you can listen to all the past episodes. I've been doing this since May last year. So May, right? Yeah, May last year. So in a couple months, my birthday month will be our 1 year Shang-a-lang. But you can listen to this conversation again on Spotify and all the conversations before. You just have to search What's Really Good. And I'm there with all my lovely guests. We shared our social media with our lovely producer Jade. Shout out to Jade. Thanks, boo.
Hey, Jade.
But why don't you share your social with the folks out there, and then also for the performers in the space, if you have any shows that you would like to plug. Crystal, what's your social?
So my social is at melanated_masks.
And that's spelled all correctly.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a real question.
It's a real question.
I'm
Spell
aware.
right?
It's spelled right. Brent?
My social media is at Brent Burkhead, and that can be a little bit confusing. That's BIRCKHEAD. And if you're in the New York area, I'll be at Smalls Jazz Club April 3rd, 7:30 p.m. And if you're in the D.C. area, I'll be at Soto April 12th with my band as well. So hope you follow us.
Nice.
I'm Jason Marshall Jazz on social media, and I'll be at Fat Cat April 1st, and every Wednesday at the American Legion 7 to 10.
My name, as the host, is Jeanette Berry, JB, and I have a residency beginning at Rockwood Music Hall on May 23rd. It's a Thursday, so every fourth Thursday for May, June, and July. The shows are free. I will be selling merch. I will have a after party, I believe, at every one, so we can chat. And then also the first one is my birthday show, because my birthday is the day before, and it's on stage 1. And then the last show in July will be, prayerfully, hopefully, the live recording of our new EP. So come out and enjoy. Go to the bar and buy stuff because the show is free, and then bring cash to give to me and the band. And that's May 23rd, June 20th, and July 25th at 9 p.m. on stage 1 at Rockwood Music Hall. You can follow me at JB_SoulNerd, SOULNERD. You can follow the band at Soul Nerds, SOULNERDS. And find me at soulnerds.com. All things Soul Nerds, except for What's Really Good on Skies Crescent Radio. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for being on the show today. And talk soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Later.